Three mercenaries stop at a resort to rest, but come across an ancient, deadly force. The film opens with a young African boy walking towards the ocean, holding a chain in one hand and a gun in the other. Now, in Bissau, Guinea-Bissau, during the 2003 coup d'etat, we are introduced to three men called the Hyenas of Bangui. We see bodies everywhere as the hyenas are here to extract a Mexican drug lord named Felix in exchange for gold. The hyenas are mercenaries that consist of Chaka, the planner, Rafa, the muscle, and Minuit, their spiritual senior. They are heading to Dakar in their plane to hand Felix to their contact, but their plane runs out of fuel, so they land at the nearest island, which is Saloum. Chaka and Rafa bury their gold so no one can steal it from them. Afterward, they discover that their plane fuel tank was sabotaged. Rafa suspects Felix is double-crossing them. Chaka mentions knowing a resort that is 8 hours away. He mentions resting there and finding fuel and resin for their plane. The hyenas head towards the resort, with Felix knocked out. On their way, they book a boat to travel, but Chaka is afraid of the water, so Minuit knocks him out with his powder. They travel towards the resort in the boat now, and at night, Chaka dreams of his past and wakes up. They arrive at the resort, which is called the Baobab. Chaka instructs all of them to blend in while he does the talking, because he knows the area and the owner of the resort, who's called Omar. Omar welcomes them into his resort, and Chaka inquires about room availability for 3 days. Omar mentions reserving all the available rooms so Minuit can get to work. Omar takes the gang to the bar and mentions that guests are allowed to do chores to get the resort running rather than paying to live. Meanwhile, multiple guests ran away in terror because Minuit scared them away. Omar now informs them of the availability of 2 rooms, which Chaka accepts. While taking them to their rooms, Omar mentions the chores will be delegated in the morning and invites them for dinner with other guests later tonight. Now, Chaka reminds Rafa to blend in because he is feeling paranoid. Later at night, Minuit also senses Chaka is planning something serious and isn't telling them. At dinner time, the gang joins Omar. Omar introduces the hyenas to the other guests, who are a young artist couple named Yunus and Sephora, a deaf and mute woman named AWA, who joined them last night, and Salamane, Omar's personal assistant. The hyenas change their names and introduce themselves as Cheikh, Rufin, Maudo, and Felipe. Chaka lies about them being gold miners, and Felipe being their contact for South American investors. Rafa asks AWA to introduce herself. She explains in sign language that she is the last person to escape from Bissau, and she knows they are mercenaries. No one else understands sign language except the hyenas. She threatens them to take her with them when they leave, otherwise she will expose them. Tensions start arising, but another guest joins them, named Solimain Fail, who happens to be the captain of the police and a good friend of Omar. AWA leaves the dinner, and Chaka excuses himself. He confronts her in the back, and she gives him a day to answer her demand. At night, Minuit meditates while Rafa cleans the bar as his chore. The next day, Chaka sees his past again and wakes in panic. They are called by Omar for task delegation. Omar pairs them up according to the chores. Salamane gets paired with Minuit, Yunus and Sephora get paired, Felix gets paired with Captain Fail, AWA gets paired with Rafa, and Omar pairs himself with Chaka. Everyone gets to their chores and completes them. On their task in the sea, Rafa asks Abua why she wants to join them. She mentions hearing stories of them and doesn't view them as murderers but rather heroes. Back at the beach, Omar and Chaka use BB guns to scare off poachers. In the field, Fail confronts Felix. He mentions reading Felix's Interpol profile and knowing who he and his partners are. Felix reveals his team is in position and will pursue it at dinner, while Felix needs to keep the hyenas distracted. Meanwhile, Omar reveals he was in the army and fought battles just like Chaka did as well. Chaka asks Omar if he has fuel and resin. Omar informs him that there's a shed a few kilometers away from the camp, and it has everything they need. The gang reunites again to plan. Chaka mentions finding the fuel and resin through Salamane, while Rafa informs Adiboye that she knows too much about them. Chaka mentions sticking to their plan and meeting at dinner, while he goes to Awa's room to confront her. Now, during dinner, everyone sits together while Chaka questions Fail why he was interrogating Felix. Fail laughs and mentions being curious about their gold mining project. Everyone settles, and Omar asks them to share their experiences. Chaka goes first and mentions remembering a shack in this camp that's missing now. He mentions being caged in that shack when he was chained and escaped from there. Chaka mentions that it was Omar who put him there as his child soldier and defiled him. Omar was known as Colonel Remington because of his pistol, which Chaka still holds with himself. He takes his gloves off and shows Remington's trademark marked on Chaka's hand as his slave. Chaka shoots Omar and all hell breaks loose. Rafa realizes it was Chaka who sabotaged their plane so he could land here and take his revenge from Omar. Faili called for his backup, but Chaka took care of them when he offered them a gold brick to leave. Adue is tied in her room by Chaka, so she cuts herself free. Suddenly, night turns into day, and Minuit hears weird sounds as he sees swarm-like creatures in the sky. Unfortunately, Felix gets attacked by the swarm of creatures and starts screaming. His body starts getting infected by the creatures, and he dies. The survivors seek shelter in Awa's cabin and try to figure out what just happened. Saloum reveals that Omar was their guard and Chaka shot him. Now, the ancient spirits of Bainuk will come for all of them. The Bainuks left Sain Saloum hundreds of years ago, but one man remained, Gana Sirabana. Omar was holding the curse of Sirabana, and these spirits killed by sound, which is why the village people had mutilated their ears. Yuns reveals he has headphones in his cabin, and they can use them. Chaka wears his headphones and heads out with AWA, who can't be affected by the swarm creatures. Chaka makes it to Yuns's cabin and finds his headsets, while AWA gets attacked by the ancient spirits. Chaka tries to save her, but the entity tries to remove Chaka's headphones. Luckily, AWA grabs Remington's gun and shoots the entity, which kills it. They return to Awa's cabin and inform everyone of their situation. They decide to head to the shed for fuel and resin, but they are out of ammo, so Saloum mentions using hammers and an axe. They plan to gear up and fight their way to the shed. Rafa apologizes to Chaka for what Omar did to him, and the hyenas share respect. They head out by covering their ears. Minuit and AWA head to the boats while Chaka, Rafa, Faili, and Saloum find motorbikes. They escape Baobab and drive toward the shed. Upon reaching there, they notice the creatures roaming around the village. Chaka and Rafa take down multiple creatures while everyone makes their way into the shed. They notice the fuel is here, but suddenly, Chaka hears his name, heads out with Fail, and notices human bones around a tree, used as rituals. He finds a shack near the tree that has R written on it with blood. R for restricted. They open the door and they find more children caged in the shack. Fail and Chaka free the kids and head back to the shed to confront Saloum. Saloum mentions that Omar used the kids as currency to deal with the spirit entity. Chaka points his gun at Saloum and asks what entity Omar has found here. Saloum throws sand at Chaka's face and escapes. They chase him out, but Saloum escapes on their bike, while Fail and Rafa get jumped by the creatures. Chaka decides to save Rafa, but by the time they save Fail, it's too late. Back at Baobab, Minuit notices the spirits have entered Eunice's cabin and attacked him and Sephora, so he locks them inside. Rafa and Chaka return to Baobab with fuel and resin, and on their way, they see Saloum getting attacked by the kids he had imprisoned with Omar. Meanwhile, AWA notices Sephora sitting near the sea, and as she approaches him, she notices Sephora has been infected too. AWA holds her in her arms as Sephora trembles with pain and dies in Awa's arms. Chaka and Rafa arrive at Baobab and find Yuns dead. Chaka heads out and finds Minuit sitting under a tree with his headphones off and a swarm of spirits floating above him. Minuit had controlled the spirits by holding them inside him so they wouldn't attack anyone else. Chaka and Rafa cry for him, knowing their dear friend is going to die. They bow their heads together, and Chaka and Rafa shoot Minuit to end his misery. They escape from the resort as more spirits attack them. Ewawa joins them, and they all decide to get on a boat, but Chaka hesitates. Rafa forcefully puts him in the boat, and they head towards their plane. Chaka is afraid of the ocean because he was the boy in the beginning of the movie walking in the ocean, and he drowned. That's why he's afraid of sea travel. Suddenly, Omar's possessed corpse attacks them, but Chaka shoots him and ends up falling into the ocean with the spirit. They try to save Chaka, but he drowns with the spirits. Awe and Rafa cry as they continue their journey. Later on, the spirits follow them and guide them to their destination, and the movie ends here. I hope you liked the story recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Thank you for being a part of Black's Movie Recaps. If these tales of mystery and intrigue sent shivers down your spine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Black's Movie Recap for more bone-chilling narratives. Stay tuned, and until next time, stay captivated.